This is going to be great. All right, I'm stopping the recording now. 1, 2, 3.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. Allow me to reintroduce myself.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Shameless Animals. This is the visual episode, the drawing episode. I'm very lucky to have an amazing, talented friend, Dr. Darren Fisher, who's, I think you tell us where you are. Maybe you're in Vienna right now. And we have hooked up our little chat here. And we're going to go over some video of you drawing and doing different things and just talking about what's going on there. And I think that will be really worth a listen for people who are either interested in drawing or just interested in the arts in general or any kind of creative production, or just want to see other people at work and what are they thinking while they do what they do. And I just think, like the audience will get so much from listening to you, Daz. So thanks for coming on, man. How are you?
Oh man, you're so good at that. I can't do this, Luke. I'm sorry. We have to cancel. Okay, no, you just.
Oh, is that it? We're done. That was good. That was good.
No, that was a lovely intro. And yeah, I'm great. Really good. Thank you, Luke. And thanks for having me on Shameless Animals. I love the name of your podcast.
Yeah, thank you. It's the rebrand. So, Darren, thanks for joining me and being up for talking about your drawing. Is there anything you'd like our audience to know about you before we get going and talk about what you've come up with?
Well, there's a few things, I suppose. I'm currently, I'm an Australian, but I live in Vienna in Austria, and relocated here last year, the year before. And I've just been drawing my whole life. I love making comics, and I did a doctorate in autobiographical comics, actually. So yeah, I make comics for sort of explaining, sort of different, for example, communication psychology, or things about like lived experience of living with a disability. And more recently, I've gotten into graphic recording, which is this really cool way of going into meetings or conferences and just sort of capturing what people are talking about, using images and text and stuff, and trying to distill the main beats of a discussion into something that people can just like get quickly and understand and remember. Yeah. So
I think you've sent me some notes of like visual recording of the minutes.
Oh yeah,
which is like so fascinating to read.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because everyone kind of finds themselves doodling in those meetings anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the idea is that actually, like before we thought that was a waste of time, but yeah, actually, I think you can waste time doing that, but I think it can also sort of keep you a bit more present and engaged. And if you're using that doodling to like take notes and also draw pictures that are sort of related to what you're talking about, then yeah, that's a really good way to cement that information in.
Yeah, I love about your work, and I think we met at a superheroes conference, didn't we, back in the day? And then literally a spa, which I love. The thing I love about your work, like since I've known you, I know way more, I think way more, and wonder and reflect way more on not only what's happening when we're drawing or when we're watching someone draw or looking at someone create something or looking at their work. So like the kind of the rich brain activity, and then the social, like the brain/social stuff that's happening between us around drawing and images. So like the community element, but also like what role can drawing play to bring out in other situations that aren't about drawing? Like a meeting is not ostensibly about drawing, but with your technique, it sort of gets us to reflect on what else is the brain trying to do anyway when we are doing those like doodles, and what are our brain's preferences, and what are we trying to make happen when so much of the world denies us like free playtime, like drawing, like being an adult and being in the modern world denies that stuff. So I just find myself thinking and reflecting on that a lot more since I knew you because of your research areas and our conversations and stuff.
Oh, that's great. I mean,
feel free to correct me if I've completely misinterpreted your life's work.
No, not at all. No, feel like you wrapped it up quite well. I mean, I think it's good to preface this by saying, I'm not a neuroscientist, not a psychologist or whatever, but like from my own experience, particularly with graphic recording, that it's really hard. I sort of went into that thinking, I've made comics my whole life, I've drawn, there should be not easy, but I should be able to slip in relatively quickly. But it's been a real learning curve because you really have to, like, you're listening to people talk live. So the idea is normally you do it live, and you're creating this map of the discussion. But people, they say a lot of things, and you got to like just listen for the raw core nugget of like meaning, and then just try and come up with the most apt image that just kind of like gets that across immediately. So it can't be too complicated. So like a lot of the times I look at graphic recordings and I think, it looks quite simple and easy, but there's a lot of thinking that goes behind like taking all of this information and coming up with that most, not maybe simple is not the right word, but like elegant or descriptive imagery. So I'm not really sure like exactly what's going on behind the scenes. I know there's a lot of, like there's this dual coding, which I think we've talked about before, where you're sort of like taking images and text, and together the two things are stronger than either one alone. And for me, it's a good exercise because, you've got, of course, like all of these therapeutic qualities of drawing where you're like just on the surface of it, you're just sitting down, you're taking some time to just like do something away from the screen. So these days I do a daily diary comic on paper instead of the screen. But you get into these flow states, so you get really deeply absorbed in the work, and it's refreshing. And like with autobiographical comics, I'm like thinking about the past and reflecting in these ways. So it's like you take all of that, but then you're also trying to like figure out what these best images are to encapsulate a conversation. And it's actually like this weird mix of relaxation, but also a workout for the brain.
Yeah.
So at the end, I feel
as you're
like,
prioritizing and sorting information.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, trying to like just push to find like, okay, so here's the first thing that comes to my mind, but what can be like a little bit more sort of interesting or fun or like I guess elegant. In German, it's like einfach, like this simple sort of simplicity, I guess.
Yeah. What's the word?
Einfach, and I could be getting that wrong.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think Germans have said that to me before at pubs, and I've said I'm pretty fucked as well. It might be time to have a big glass of water.
Yeah.
And so that's like means like the elegance of capturing the idea.
It's like simple. Yeah. It's like almost like easy in a way as
like
well.
Design simplicity or something.
Yeah. It's just like, it should just, you should just look at this image and just get it, like the thinking has been done for you. It's like the mother bird. I'm chewing up the information for my little babies.
Yeah.
And then just spitting it out into your mouth, and you're just like, it's already ready to digest. So it's a strange analogy.
Fantastic.
But yeah.
I love it. I don't know if we gained a couple of subscribers from that metaphor or lost a couple, but either way, I'm with it. I'm with it. I always note, like with your daily comics, the old school like newspaper cartoonists,
cool.
It's that ability to say something important, say something current, something that's happening now, but to be sort of a step sideways, to be like there's finding humor in it, or finding a unique perspective, or like sometimes humor is just surprise, and it's just, here's a surprising perspective on this matter that you didn't know someone was going to write about or capture this or even mention. But just that ability to play with meaning where things really do matter, and yet have a kind of detached, ironic, playful, humorous take on it, or surprising take, is just a fantastic tradition of like old school cartooning that we don't really have anymore because we don't have newspapers the same way. But yeah, like the way you capture your diary, like because it's a daily slice of life vibe, it's always got that ability, and there's always like I just also love the way that you're just writing about you and your life and your thoughts and capturing that moment, that little bird food moment. But because of the universal elements of art, everyone reading it can identify and say, yeah, can find the connection and put it through their own filter. So I just love that quality you have. Like, it's a lightness and a deftness, but it's meaningful, you know.
That's real nice of you to say. Well, yeah, it's a funny one with these diary comics, because I made them like sort of 10 years ago. I made them for a couple of years during my doctorate, and they always had like a small core band of friends who would sort of like, because I put them online, a core of people that would sort of comment and like and stuff. But, you know, it was not like getting famous by a long stretch. But more recently, so I started again this year, and I thought like, I don't want to just sort of say, you know, every day, it's not a literal diary. Like, I didn't want to just say like, here's something that happened. So I'm always like, and also to entertain myself, I'm like looking for some variety, you know. So yeah, it's and I'm obvious. I'm sort of like aware that people are reading these, and I want them to enjoy it and for it to resonate. But yeah, sometimes I wonder if like the best way to connect with people and get like, ultimately, you know, you like as an artist, like I don't really identify with that term, but like as someone who makes images and stuff and wants to get them out there and bases a career on that, you want them to spread and proliferate. And so like, you've got to connect with people. And I think like, I haven't hit on the formula yet, but the less I'm finding that like, the less I'm censoring myself and the more I'm just like thinking out loud about stuff that's going through my head. And often it's like stuff that triggers, like something will happen in the day and I'll be thinking about
something upsetting.
Yeah. Or, you know, like, why did this get more likes than the other thing? Or, you know, the other day we saw a butterfly in the middle of winter and we're like, oh, that's probably not good, you know, like it's just a sign of like, you know, climate stuff. So every day, and then I just go, okay, I'm just gonna talk about something about this on the comics. And yeah, it's fun. It gives me this every day, like, okay, I've got to draw something, you know, on paper. And it's nice. Like, I get a lot of feedback now, like, and people are connecting, and then I go, okay, like this, because sometimes, you know, like you get a bit negative with social media and you go like, what's the point? But I think like the more I use it, then sometimes I go, actually it is nice, you know, people are out there, they're kind of like connecting and engaging and reaching out, and so it's kind of cool. Yeah.
That's great. I think it's one of the best abilities that an artist of any medium has, which is like having faith in like going inside and internal to just concentrate on their stuff, their perspective, and having faith that it will communicate and connect. Like there's no art without someone to watch it and to hear it and see it and witness it. You know, like it's such a community binding thing or agitating thing, but like the best, like, and I'm still trying to find this as a writer and creator, but the people who create at a high level in my life, they are just fantastic at having faith that their personal thing that they want to do or say will have appeal and it will find an audience and connect out there. But if all you're doing is worrying about the connection, you're just not going to make something compelling, you know. So it's as in so many parts of our lives, like the less we try or the less we think about it and preoccupy ourselves about it, the more it comes to us in a flow, in a kind of, you know, the more we can master things, the less we're consciously trying to think of it. Like we do just need to like ease back and sort of do our practice without overthinking every step.
Yeah, and it's like 100% agree. Like for me, that's true. You know, I've got to just sort of, I mean, that's why I did my doctorate in autobiographical comics, like just to talk about, you know, this stuff. But it's also true that if you just want to, you know, reach a wide audience and stuff, there's, you know, it doesn't hurt to pander to like the current trends. And I remember like a guy in the Australian comic scene like years ago just started doing like My Little Pony stuff, and he was he was like sort of well known before that, but then he just exploded. He was getting invited to all the conventions, and he really became synonymous. And I don't know if he, like, maybe he loves My Little Ponies, but it seemed like, I mean, it's possible, but it seemed like if that was his strategy, it really worked. But then, like I go like, what if I just pin all my horses on the next thing and start making, art that I just hate, and then it doesn't take off anyway. So, yeah, I don't even know.
Well, the worst thing would be if it does take off and then you're stuck with it.
Yeah,
Having
well, that's
to
true.
keep doing something that you already hated before you started it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's like balancing, just kind of trying to make sure that, I'm staying true to what's inside and keep myself entertained and enjoying it, but also going, okay, people are going to look at this. I can't just rant about, I can't go full Robert Crumb, and but I also,
that guy didn't care.
He didn't care, yeah, and it worked for him. And he was also, it's like brilliant artwork, and he was like right time and right place, this sort of like counterculture stuff. But I also can't just like say make comics just that are completely pedestrian, like, oh, today I went for a ride and it was cold and stuff. Like, I think sometimes those things are okay, but other times it's like, okay, like what's inside me at the moment, and that I feel is important, like that I want to talk about, and then try and get that out, in 6 panels or less.
Well, that's why I like your what you choose to focus on. It as I said, it has that element of surprise. It has that it's curated. It's curated through, you're experiencing your everyday life, and yet you've picked out something that is worth doing a comic about that day. And that's, I can really see like the structure of a great practice there, like and just you've honed your mind. And like when you read one of your comics, which will be showing a bunch that you're happy to share, like while we've been having this convo, and people will be able to see that there's, by doing this and having the practice of it, you've honed a perspective, a view. Like probably if I did see, I could tell your visual style, but I could probably also tell, like if someone told me about a comic, I could probably go, oh, that sounds like Darren.
Right.
Like it was like one of these 5 is Darren. I reckon I could pick it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I also like have this thought that like, oh man, what if I just run out of ideas, but I think when you just say it's a diary comic, it's just whatever's happened that day, it takes the pressure off. So
yeah.
And then
if you ran out of ideas and just started doing the same thing over and over, like someone tragic like Scorsese, like that would be such a disaster. Like I would feel so bad for you if you went the way of Scorsese to just keep doing the same idea again and again. That'd be a real tragedy for your career to wind up like Scorsese.
You think Scorsese? Irishman, I didn't enjoy that anyway, but
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy it. Yeah, I liked it when he was repeating himself with the gangster films.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen, but like I just started, like I said, this practice just to like, because I wasn't drawing actually, and I really think that
after you moved.
Oh, just more recently, like I was only drawing on the tablet as well, my iPad, and then I was like, oh man, I miss drawing on paper. So, but I really think that I'm just writing a book chapter actually at the moment. It's about to finish it off, and it's about like that. I think that diary comics are really like beneficial for people to do, like, and anyone can do them. Like just use stick figures and stuff, but it comes back to, I think, what I was saying about like this power of like distilling sort of things and emotions and memories into images. So like it's good for me, and you don't have to put them online, you can just do them. But yeah, it's a good little practice. And so like think more people could like try it, at least, because everyone's got interesting stuff going on in their lives, and a lot of us don't even, we don't probably like have a diary even at all, so.
Well, we were having a laugh about like podcasting, like you had can you tell the audience your joke about the couple on a date or whatever?
All right. Well, it's, we can show the image. We'll be showing the image right now, but, so the cartoon is like a man and woman and they're in bed or something, like it's like an intimate moment, and she says, oh, say it to me again, darling, say it. And he says like, I will never start a podcast. And then she's like, so yeah.
But I think the reason I mention that is I think it's great to just have an outlet or a form, something you're comfortable with, a way of like noticing your own life as it goes by, like a way of reaching out and connecting with someone else. Like, there's so many different ways to do it. And I think it's a good thing to do. Like, you don't even need an audience. I think it's good to work on your own expression and just have a practice that you do. Yeah. I think that's fantastic stuff. And then learning not to, it doesn't come easily to me, but learning not to be self-conscious about judging what I've produced. That's key. That's key. Yeah. I mean, that's like a path. That's a torture path to hell. Like, it's way better not to do that. But it's like the kind of thing that you want to be able to analyze and make good decisions based on analyzing where you're at. But like, for example, I don't shoot video because I'm not good enough yet. So I like podcasting. That's my happy spot. So that took some analysis to be like, yep, that's not good enough. This other stuff is good enough. This other stuff works really well. But I think it's great for everyone to have a practice, especially when like modern life, cost of living, economy pressures, like there's a lot of pressure to the way we live. And yeah, another great thing that comes out of your research is just like the therapeutic element of doing drawing and what it does to your brain and stuff.
Well, you a couple of years ago, you helped me with this paper for a journal that I wrote. Was about this topic. Yeah. You really saved me on the introduction there. But yeah, it was about that. Like, because I taught at university for so many years, and I had a few students who like they go through like 3 years, and even students that like led a team in the final year in animation it was, and they led a team, they created a short film, all this stuff, and then at the end they're like, I'm flat, I'm completely tapped out, I've got no more creativity. And I think it was like this constant, like, because we had every week or something there's like reviews and critical feedback and stuff, and and I think a lot of people have that. It's just like it becomes so arresting and completely like like they can't just be free anymore because they're always like judging themselves too harshly. And I think like, of course, there's a place for sort of critical assessment of the work, but I think that comes after, like you've made the thing. And then you have a look at it, you go, okay, what could I do better? And then do it, like try and implement that for the next thing. But if you're doing that, like, if you're like, it's like if you're trying to have a conversation and then you're just like thinking at the same time, oh, am I sounding stupid? You'll just, you will sound, like it's like that. So you have to just go, okay, while I'm making this thing, I'm just going to like let it flow. And then, and then at the end, you can have a look and go, okay, this could be better or that better, but don't beat yourself up. Like, and go, okay, like next time I'll get like a bit better or try something different. So
that's right.
I actually like that a lot. Just quickly, like working on paper is really liberating because you go, okay, God, I put too much ink down there, but it's there now, so got to live with it. You can't, like that's a nice thing. Like digital, you just go back or you erase it, but with paper, you're stuck with it. And then you go, okay, like I have to live with that. Now it's how it is.
I always make too many marks. I'm never as minimalist as I want to be.
Oh, okay. I think that's not a bad
I saturate the image a bit too much. But with my writing, like when I'm drafting, I'm not editing. Like editing is, I'll sit down and be like, I'm editing now. But I won't edit while I draft. Otherwise, I'll rewrite the same piece of paper, same 500 words again and again.
So you got like two separate stages, like that you break it down.
Yeah, almost. And it's funny, like they're just like, it's just in terms of habit, in writing habit and practice, but actually it's sort of developed into like, they're like two different people, they're two different Lukes who just have different ideas about writing. Like one has the ideas that he needs to create and get happening, and is like overly optimistic and is a bit of like harnessing a bit of bimbo energy. And then the editor is like a lot more of like a, grizzled, furrowed brow person. It really does feel like two different people. And the person who drafts isn't me in my day-to-day life either.
Yeah, right.
So it really has like hardened into these personas. But I find separating those things out. And then the third one is actually just switching off, like knowing I've got to a certain point and actually switching off and doing something else, because letting the brain refresh and reset, that being an important part of creating too.
That's so interesting, because I just have this I think that's a comic actually, like the bimbo Luke and the grizzled Luke. That's gonna be a diary comic maybe, but it's
I feel like if any of my exes listening to that would be like, yes, I've met them.
Yeah, but because I like when I'm editing, I can't help also writing, and it's like the like they get sort of mixed together almost. Like I can't just sort of edit and cut stuff out. I'm like, oh, then I have to write something here, and then so it's like happening kind of together there with writing for me. Maybe that's why I'm not so good at writing.
But cartoons, like there's writing in cartoons, right? There's a place for text in the visual image.
Yeah,
there's important storytelling.
There's a Australian cartoonist I think is awesome. His name's Pat Grant, and he just thinks of drawing as another form of writing. And if you're into semiotics and stuff, you might find parallels there. But yeah, he calls drawing like another form of scribing or something. He goes like, yeah, it's another form of script.
Pat Grant.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, right. Oh, that's great to know. Well, Pat Grant sounds to me like the name of someone who should be on like a Nutri-Grain commercial or something.
Yeah, right. It sounds like a tennis player.
I'm drawing, but I'm actually writing. Crunch, crunch.
Yeah, you got to
get
it nice
zoom to his face.
Yeah, he did like this really cool comic about his dad, like this relationship with his dad, and then halfway through drawing the comic, his dad passed away, and it became this sort of like dealing with that. It was you could see as well like the emotion on the page and his line work and stuff. Man. Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, there's a topic I'll never cover. There's no way. There's no way I would just be like, here's my comic thoughts on my relationship with my father. Like, there's no fucking chance.
I'm actually waiting for my parents pass away. I can start making some comics about that. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm
not writing about my family.
Yeah. It's you have to be careful, because like when you're talking about real life, people can go, "Hey, that's me," and so there are like that consideration to think about a little bit.
Yeah, especially when you're doing. I mean, that's a good thing about your daily reflections as well. They are about your life, but that's not you. It's the transitory connection with the world, things you're seeing, things you're observing. It's not like your deep, dark memoir. Like, today I sat in my lounge room in the dark for 6 hours and thought about when I was 11. Like, it's not it's you're saying things about yourself, but it's it's appealing. It's the transitory stuff. It's the quotidian elements that everyone can identify with.
Yeah, I think I wrote a title for because I just started a new book for that, and then I wrote a title in the book and I called it "Thinking Through Inking," and it's basically what it is. I'm gonna have a little rhymey rhyme, but yeah.
Oh, please! That made me so happy.
Yeah,
that had the German. What's the German word again?
Einfach. Easy.
Einfach. Yeah, I felt einfucked in that moment because of the just the simple beauty of the rhyming title.
Yeah, in German that would be like denken durch zeichnen, which is not quite as snappy, but it's also kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that amazing? Like when you put it into German, it's all of a sudden a lot less snappy.
Yeah. You would have thought.
These 17 syllables, they really don't go together as well as the 3 syllables in English do. All right, well, that is really fascinating to hear about your creative process, and it's always a pleasure as well to like tell my talented friends why I really value what they do. It's great to have an opportunity, and I think that's such an important thing. Like, friends should tell each other why they're good, and we should support each other to make stuff happen. Like, it actually does inspire me. It makes me see myself as a creator. But when I wake up at like 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, I don't really feel like a creator. I just feel like someone who needs to go to the toilet really badly. Yeah, man. So I appreciate it. I think that's a really good conversation to have, and just sort of cover a bit of, like why you do what you do and different ways of approaching it. I think it's fantastic stuff.
Yeah, mate, thanks a lot. Yeah, and like, I tell you all the time, but I'm like so inspired by, how you think and your take on things and how you draw together different ideas. And you're always like definitely one of the most supportive friends that I have, and always sort of trying to help me to believe in myself, which is a really beautiful thing. Like, so yeah, thank you.
That's great. I'm not even consciously trying that. It's just, I just notice stuff and then it comes out of my mouth and I tell the person.
Nice. No, that's
I'm not trying to prop you up or anything. I'm not like, oh, Darren's really fragile and needs some support. It's not. It's just like, wow, that I fucking saw that post. Like, that was amazing, and I'll ask you about it. I guess that's why we're friends.
Mate. Yep.
It's good, isn't it? It's good. All right, man. Let's start this thing. Are you ready to hit play on your little image? So we're going to show a bit of like this image production stuff, and I just think there'll be so much to talk about, and so much for people to get out of it. All right, let's go. 3, 2, 1, click.
All right. So this video is me. I do this thing called automatic drawing. It's not anything new. So it came from the surrealists, sort of related to automatic writing and stuff, and it's just basically like doodling, but you really, instead of sort of being absent-minded, you're really just looking at what you're doing and you're kind of trying to stay focused on what's happening. And here I'm actually also like integrating, so I'm just like trying to like draw and like experiment with different ways of holding the pen. So, I don't normally...
Yeah, you're really defamiliarizing it in your hand.
Totally. Like, just like, and then seeing what comes out. And the aim's not to make obviously not make a nice drawing, but just try and like limber up and like get the sort of juices flowing and and like defamiliarizing. That's a really good point, because there are different ways to hold a pen, and you can get different results from that. So yeah, so this is
We'll have to see when you're doing your shopping list if you also had the Posca on the side at the end of the fourth finger there. Or you're like, this is how I do my shopping list. Like, don't you?
Yeah.
But can I ask, are you when you're drawing it, like my brain is seeking ways to make this representational images. Like, what can I see in there? And it keeps changing and transforming from a landscape to like a more up close, detailed picture, like in a market square or something, or now it's an animal. Does your brain do that, or are you just not there when you're creating at all?
Like that. I know what you're saying, and I have done sometimes. Like, I'll take an automatic drawing and then just look for like little characters inside. They pop out like usually while it's happening. I'll see different possibilities, and like I really like drawing faces and little characters, so I'll see mainly that. But that's it's like can be used for that as well. So like here I'm just trying with my left hand and trying to sort of get some neural plasticity happening.
Yep.
And also just like roll that around. So like I'll do something like this, before I start drawing, just like doing sort of stretches and warm-ups before you go to the gym, just get yourself in the mood, and works pretty well.
I'll do this when I'm driving, Darren. I'll be like, I'm just going to drive with my right hand and like take out a few lampposts and people at a bus stop and stuff. But like, hey, it's just good to, work on both sides of my brain while I'm driving.
Yeah. But it's like I can see like a character there now, and I have, like you can get some cool like designs from this, and sometimes you just get complete garbage as well.
What's happening that the brain is seeking to make this representational image, like make this image representational? I mean, when it's not, it's an amazing squiggle on its own terms. Like abstract art is fantastic. Why is my brain seeking to find recognizable, stylized images in this work?
Yeah. Is it like a pattern sort of seeking thing like that we do that as humans? Like we're always looking for patterns
Yeah, I think we are like just hardwired to be pattern recognition machines. Like, whether it's relationships, food, danger, the environment, a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's pleasure. It's so hardwired to the pleasure that we experience in the world.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, because I'm always just drawing stuff. So, but here I'm trying to like write the date, I think, and it's like left-handed is just almost impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the color that you've picked as well. Like you've picked colors that aren't, they're not the finished drawing colors. It's not like this. It's getting as far away from like an idea of, I'm going to do a proper drawing now and people are going to look at this. It's like, no, well, how about bright red and then how about bright green? That's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's just what I had on hand, actually. But yeah.
Fantastic.
So, anyway, are you now on the painting?
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's coming in. It looks like a map.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Greenland. I'm seeing water. But it could be something totally different.
So you're really looking for patterns and stuff.
I can't help it. Yeah, I can't help it at all.
Yeah, creative brain, whatever. But this is like the automatic drawing, but with paint, So I'm just sort of like, and here it's almost like a relaxation exercise, like, because this is sped up quite a bit. But really, you have to take the time and just watch these paints like mingle together. It's quite enjoyable, just like as a little sort of, as a way to relax and unwind.
I love the textures building up with the different colors, and then I also love where you've kept some negative space inside of the paint. That's really cool, and some splatter effect. I love that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and you just sort of like, you're just seeing what happens if you add some blues and you add some greens, and often then I'll get to a point where I'll go like, all right, I want to just sort of like mess it up almost, and put in colors that shouldn't go. And,
make it change.
Just like how.
What's the best way to mess it up?
The best way to mess it up is to put in like a complement. So if I put in a red over the green, it'll just turn grey. It'll get real muddy, and or if I just smash it like down really thickly everywhere without variation, it gets boring. So it's like I'm just trying to build up like interesting patterns and stuff. Yeah, but you can't mess it up, really. Like, that's kind of the appeal of it. And,
absolutely.
And it's a nice way to...
Yeah, I love the yellow you're adding.
Yeah, little accents, So I'm sort of like trying to build on, like color psychology, color schemes sort of stuff, like build something that's pleasing to look at. But yeah, I can totally see like a little character emerging from this.
Is it universal that we find like blues and greens? Like, do we find it universally relaxing? Like, those colors make me think of emotions, make me think of the sea, make me think of the sky, forest, like all these things relax me. Whereas like the yellow, when you added the yellow, I was like, oh, that's exciting and it's lively and active. Is this like built into these colors and the way all people interact with these colors, or is that just culture and my own personal psychology?
Well, it's both. It's both. Like, my understanding is that like color, so we have like the reaction to things based on nature. So like sea and water and stuff. There you get those like relaxing things, but it's also cultural. So for example, if you're Irish, then you have this like positive association with green. But if you're like an Englishman, way back, maybe not, and then if it's sort of like green, it can be relaxing. But if you add too much yellow, it can look sickly and then like look like rot and decay. So, it's a lot of it's subliminal, a lot of it's cultural and stuff. And a lot of it's just like, who knows, I think people try to explain those things, but you can have like your own sort of nurtured reactions to colors as well, So, so we're looking at the dude now.
Yeah, it's coming in nice. His hairline. Yeah.
So this is just like I'm looking at the screen and trying to draw him, and I always like have real difficulties as like getting a likeness of characters. And so I like never really learned how to draw properly, or from observation. I just like started drawing as a kid and just drew from imagination, and got to university and did life drawing, and then realized that I'd never looked at something and tried to draw it from life before, and then just like really suffered a lot. So that's something I still try and develop.
So was that a bad experience? Was that a hard experience?
That was hard. Yeah. It was really hard. Because I grew up my whole life. I was a kid who was like the best drawer in class and blah, blah, blah. And like it got to a point where I could make stuff look okay, I felt at the time. But then all of a sudden my drawings were looking terrible. I was like the worst at it, and I was like, it was really tough. It took a long time to... Anyway, it's still something I need to work on.
There's a lot of, I always think this, like, and as we become adults and we age, like we tend to focus on things that we are good at, and then we're mainly practicing things we're good at. And then occasionally you meet someone and they're trying something totally new. And I always think it takes a lot of, it takes a bit of like emotional resilience for an adult to go and learn something new and something that they're not good at and chase. Like, it's interesting, you went to art school and were like, oh, I'm going to practice this thing that I know I'm not good at because I've never done it before, and it's making me really uncomfortable. That's a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing for people to do.
Well, I mean, I read a thing recently that was saying basically that people that were like complimented a lot when they were younger then have like real difficulties with learning new things and like risk taking. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy. Still have issues with like learning new things, but and it's of course like nice to do stuff and then it looks good. Like at the moment I go into this children's village once a week and I work with kids there, and they don't really understand that some things have to look bad in order to like develop your skills or to develop understanding of like how to draw like structure and stuff. They just want to like leave with a nice looking image at the end. And so that's, like, okay, I have to...
Like the wish fulfillment of their own drawing. Like they just want to get to that point where...
Yeah, it's
got to recognize. They hand it to someone and the person goes, oh, very nice. Like,
it's got to look good. Yeah. They get real frustrated very quickly. And so yeah, that's interesting because I don't remember feeling that as a kid. I just enjoyed drawing. So
yeah, right. I love you like on this picture. You make tiny details. When you added a tiny bit of emphasis on the right side of the t-shirt, like the shadow of the t-shirt lip, like it brought it out so much. Like you just add a few lines or a couple of marks, and it really changes and either increases the depth or just really transforms the area. Like is amazing.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
When you chuck in this background color as well, like it makes it all go cosmic, and it's just incredible the way this thing's taking shape.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, I remember watching a watercolor painter one time. He was doing a portrait. He was so slow, but it was like every single brushstroke was like, oh man, it was just like putting a puzzle together. So yeah, that's a nice thing about digital. You can play with these effects and stuff. But he turned out pretty good. This guy actually, it's a very interesting face.
Yeah, he had a really interesting face. Yeah, so much texture in his face with the shadows. Hey, getting back to what you were saying before, as you start this grid, it's very sci-fi kind of grid is how I'm interpreting it. Don't know if that's wrong, but what are the best qualities when people come to draw with you in these workshops and stuff? Like what's like a really great quality that you try to encourage or help the others to see and try?
Well, that's a good question. I would say, like just being able to, thanks. It's like structured automatic drawing. Yeah, I think just being open to being like uncomfortable and going, okay. Like I remember like coming back to this when I was first like learning life drawing. At one point, I had to leave. I couldn't handle it, and so I had a lot to learn. But yeah, it's gonna be hard in the beginning. Like if you haven't drawn, like you're not going to make beautiful stuff straight away. And so people that are just willing to just put in the time, and be okay with being like in this sort of, like a drawing doesn't look great straight away. Like usually, it's like you have to build it up and it takes time and stuff. So It's like
Yeah.
willingness to
That's
be
great
in
wisdom.
this like this state of things not being finished, and just people that are just able to just relax, and go, okay, like, and enjoy it, enjoy the process itself, not like the aim, like if you just want to make a nice looking drawing, then it's like going to the gym and I just want to get the beach body, like
Yeah.
that's a good aim, but like really you have to enjoy like the lifting of the weights or like the running itself or whatever. So yeah. Like there's a lot
Like a lot of people, they're going to hit the gym for the bench, for the chest and shoulders, but they're not going to do the back and the pull-ups and the squats.
Yeah, you
actually,
gotta do the whole thing. Yeah, you gotta do the whole thing, and you gotta like just, and it's hard. I think like it's hard because you have to also, like a lot of us don't use a pen much anymore, so you have to just get used to just using a pen in your hand and stuff. Like these little muscles have to develop, and
I love the bite. I love when the paper, like the pen bites into the page, and it's not just flowing across the paper easily. It's biting into the texture of the page, and when you draw or make a mark, like you're feeling resistance from the paper. I love that feeling.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, like this, and I have like different papers, pads and stuff, and they all like have like these pads here are really smooth, so the pen just glides over it, But the paper I'm using for like these diary comics is quite textured, so it's completely different, and it's not very thick, so I also can't put down much water for like ink washes, so I have to be like super, like every medium has like different requirements of how you work with it, which is like, again, that's also like, it's cool that you enjoy that, because that's one of the interesting things about working with paper and stuff. It's just like, okay, what's the experience of my hand moving over the paper, and then you just have to sink into it, and that's where the magic lies as well, where you just like get so into what you're doing, and like not working on the screen, you don't have pop-ups and stuff. So yeah, I think like it can be a good exercise for just sort of training your ability to not be distracted. Yeah.
That grid, like as I was watching it, I was really enjoying the rules. Like you're playing with a limited palette and you're free drawing, but actually you've got a really contained little structure of what your rules are. And then I noticed you got to a point where you're like, bam, I'm changing the rules. And now there's a face and then you drew in a crest on the left-hand side. And then looks like a couple of things that are, again, struggling to find representation on the right-hand side. And then you started doing curves, like cloud-like curves on the right-hand side. And it's just like, oh, Darren's changed the rules. And I think, again, like the pattern recognition machine thing of what we are, as a species, that it gives me a lot of pleasure to be like, oh, yeah, these are the rules. Oh, he's breaking the rules. That's very interesting. Oh, I see. He's he's in the rules, but he's really pushing the rules right now. Like these are what I think how my brain's lighting up to kind of enjoy this. And then the fact that it's so clear when you've changed the rules, that's like a really interesting feeling watching these drawings.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. Like I start the drawing, like the old Nokia games, the Snake game. Like that's a game. That's the rules at the start. I just have to move around in this line, and then totally. Then I just like, it's interesting because I remember like a guy, an artist in my art college who he was doing his masters, and he was from Iran. And so he had a lot of like constraints on him as an artist about things he couldn't depict and stuff. And he was talking about how useful that was for him to have all of these rules, all of these constraints, like he found it kind of like difficult when he came to Australia. He's like, all of a sudden I can make art about anything. So Jesus, what am I going to do? But before he had such a limited palette, it was actually kind of liberating to have that.
That was my whole childhood was like, I can draw to a really high ability. I can draw, but I don't know what to draw. I never know what to draw. And I needed someone else to tell me what to draw. And then I'll be like, yep, cool, I'm going to draw that. But yeah, I really was frozen with the choice to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I was big on superheroes as a kid. So like I've got hundreds of pages of like superhero adventures.
Oh yeah.
you know, and then I was like, I would have just like a story, you know, and I'm like, okay, that's what I'm drawing. I'm keeping the story going, you know, like,
That's great.
yeah.
I think I was too, I just questioned myself. I divided up that drafter and editor. The editor was too big going, wait, that's dumb. You sure you want to draw that? Like just that doubting voice and backing yourself to just keep creating, which I get better at as I get older. But even now, like I've got a painting on the go that I've had for like 2 years, and I've done like the undercoats and stuff, and I really just don't know what to do next to develop it, like the next level of detail to kind of keep bringing it forth.
Yeah.
That's why I really admire people who just are following their nose and not getting hung up and stopping like that.
Well, you know, sometimes you just have to, you just say, okay, it's done, and now I go to the next thing, you know, like if you're stuck, then you go, okay, maybe it's done, maybe it's finished. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't really paint, except for like playing around and stuff like this, but,
This has gotten really epic, this one.
So this is an example where I
heady.
really just am trying to mess it up. You know, I'm just going too dark. You know, I'm like mixing colors that shouldn't, they're not really playing.
Devastating.
Yeah, not playing well together. And,
Love it.
Yeah. So but it could turn it into like a little cosmos or something. Yeah, it's again. So like this is now. There's like that corner is just too muddy. It's like, okay, I've messed that up. You know, so it doesn't matter. But now here, yeah.
That's very interesting, man, watching it just react and just do stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, you know. And this is something like you don't need any skill to do this sort of stuff. You can just, like anyone.
It's almost like the skill you need is kind of wisdom to just keep placing marks, right? And try something else, not think about it too much. These are sort of like life skills.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
Not like a technique.
Well, it's it helps like me, you know, if this was something that I wanted to put on a canvas and like sell or whatever, then I wouldn't be as experimental. But it's like this goes in the bin when I'm done with it, you know. So it's it's just completely just a warm up exercise. It's just completely like, you know, how terrible can I make it, or what can I learn through pushing, you know, the edges. And hopefully like some of that stuff, and even like the way the paint like mixes, and like, oh, I've put a wet spot.
It's wild.
Yeah, next to where it's wet before, and then okay, like you get these little channels that form. Super interesting, man.
The way that runs through and bleeds through, like the way that green pushed along the left hand side down the bottom there, that's really fascinating. Yeah.
But and then sometimes like you go, okay, this could be like something that could be developed further. But I think this one is just like, it didn't look any good when it dried, and I guess I might have just chucked it out, or I don't know what. But
I think watching the movement of it get created, like watching the colors move within the water and the medium is that's where a lot of the joy is from watching it happen, I reckon.
Yeah. So you on the monkey now?
Oh yeah, just started the monkey.
Yeah.
Love it.
This is like, so I started in just like a little A5 sketchbook, and then just penciling this guy. And then I got it to a point of inking, and I realized that I needed more space. Like he was just cramped in and stuff.
I love that detail. It's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I really used to just love putting detail into stuff. But so then scan it and put it into Photoshop. And
great.
Yeah, and then expand the canvas.
Oh, yeah,
and it's
look
like,
at that.
okay. So there's some stuff that was cut off by the page.
So that's let you center it?
Yeah, I can center it. I can add more canvas. I can at some point I think like his left hand is like way too cramped. So if I had more space, I would have so the page really sort of like constrained the image there. So now I go, okay, you can have some more space to breathe. I think I end up repainting that arm entirely. So just, I love
That's
the
great.
monkey.
What are you thinking of the background that you're drawing in? What are you trying to put him on?
Is it like on a rock or something, like a mountain top kind of thing, you know? So, but yeah, I'm playing with different stuff. But because the way his feet are positioned as well, it's like, okay, you know, that's also going to determine where it can go, you know, like, so yeah, I have to make this multi-ledged thing. And then I don't know where that came from. Cool. But you see the arm, I had to redraw that as well. And
yeah.
So
yeah, sort of balance it up more. And I mean, it doesn't look like it right now, but before, when it was just the drawing with the high amount of detail, it really reminded me of like a Mobius, like Incal, you know, that French graphic design style. And also one of my very favorite mangas is Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind.
I know
with
that.
a really thick pen and lots of hatching, like it's like really serious single hatching, not double hatching, just a really great, again, limited palette that's high detail, and it's just so sumptuous to look at. Yeah,
well, I love that. Like you can really enjoy, like that is just like hatching is also quite kind of meditative, you know, if you're just doing this, like, it's like the rules, you know, you just go, okay, like line after line after line. But at the same time, you also like, you can't just do it absent-mindedly because you have to think about, like, the lines are describing where the shadow is, and it's also describing form as well. So where the form is like meeting the light and falling into shadow. So it's like, you know, it's again one of those things that's kind of like meditative, but also like you have to stay switched on.
You've really killed your darlings with this monkey picture. Like, it looks quite different, and I think you've tried like 7 or 8 or 9 different ways of direction to go in with this picture, and you're just not afraid to say, no, like back it up and go again, which you know, that term, kill your darlings.
Yeah, you
can't fall in love.
No, you can't. Yeah.
Yo.
So
you can't fall in love with your own work. You got to stay. No. Like, that's what's amazing. You're able to keep that mindset.
Well, it's like, just, I don't even know. Just like, no, it doesn't look right. Try this. You know, I wish sometimes that I could find, you know, the right thing straight away. Because some people say they have like an image in their mind and then they're trying to get that. But I rarely, if ever, I don't really have an image in my mind. I'll just like start drawing and then see what comes out. You know, so
that's great.
Yeah,
well, that's great because I do see the image and I'm just tracing it. People go, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just filling in what I can already see there." But it makes it harder to re-envisage and do what you've done, which is go back to the well like so many times for this one drawing and really experiment. Like when you put in, you like decrease the detail on like the thigh and the other leg, and it just like now you've got a contrast between lots of detail in parts and then less detail on a plane, and that's just so dynamic. But I would have been too in love to really try that.
Yeah. Well, I still have the pencil drawing, so it's not really lost. But like you see, like now at the end, there's nothing really left of the original drawing. But it was a good prompt to get me started, and I got like there's some things about the pose and stuff that are still there, but
and you've gone back and forth so many times. Like, is he holding his magic pole, or is he leaning, or is his tail wrapped around it, or is he leaning against like a much thicker pillar that's like an object, part of the environment and background? Like, it's just fantastic the way you've gone back and forth on that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you think it's fantastic, because to me, I think like, oh God, can't you just, what's wrong with you? You know, just get it. So, but eventually, you know, and then.
So what are you thinking when you're doing this?
Well, I'm not even thinking that much. I'm just like, no, it doesn't look right. Oh, you know, and then things like, how would he hold the pole? You know, like in terms of physics, you know, it's got to kind of like lean against him, and it's like stuff of composition that I think becomes a little bit automatic after a while. Just like what feels right, you know, and like looking at negative space and like, so yeah. In the end, it's you know, it sort of comes together, but it always takes a while to kind of to find it, you know. And it's kind of like the nice thing about the diary comics, because I just do them, I just like rough it out really quickly in pencil. Yeah, that's about right. And then just ink it and it's done So
we get some types, like we've become, it's like enculturated types, like whether it's like if it's a superhero comic or if people are into anime, there's particular, like there's particular poses and there's a way that bodies look, right? Like there's poses and it's completely stylized. Like people don't fucking flex like that when they're having conversations. They just don't. It's like in daytime soaps, like people are constantly turning their back on each other and hiding what their face's reaction, and then one person will turn and face them, and then the other person will turn, and then there's 2 episodes of that, them facing that way. That's like, it's just like this accepted stylistic way of understanding bodies and different mediums. But if you were talking to someone, I actually think I did have a partner once who would do the old turn, like the dramatic turn away or whatever.
Man,
like, am I in a soapy right now? What the fuck's going on? Quite funny. But because out of context, it's really weird. But, it's the same, like superhero comics or anime or, like there's like a shorthand to that we get, isn't there? I mean, even on like a close-up on film, it's going to be the golden rule. The face isn't going to be centered. It's going to be off-center by a third. And they're probably going to like cut across the forehead. Like you're not going to see the top of their head. That's how a close-up happens in a movie. And we got used to it on a 4:3 TV, and then we got used to it on a 16:9, and then you've got the cinematic layout for really. And if it's a really long, thin, I don't know what the dimensions are on a film, the frame, then it's prepping you for lots of landscape shots, lots of beautiful scenes and pans and stuff, and it's probably going to be some kind of prairie or mountain valley or something. Like we just develop these types. I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, they become normal. There's this there's this sort of vertical video sort of thing. I don't know if it will take off. You see it on your phone though, of course, but like for like cinemas where it's in vertical, layout.
Oh, that's
and then
wild to me. That's so wild.
Yeah. Like what kind of like it just reorients the entire cinematic language, like all of those things that you go like like reverse shot should be framed like this. It's like, okay, no, it's like we're doing full bodies or we're doing half a face or,
What do you think of that? What do you think of it?
I mean,
It's
I think
quite
it's
an
got
innovation.
Yeah, it's innovative. Like it's got a place, I guess, for certain type of films. I suppose there's people that are playing around with it, and like I don't think it would take over cinema altogether. But I think that could be certain sort of things like But there's lots of videos that we see like on social media now that are vertical, and you just that's happening. So
it's
just
happening.
creeping in, just because of the format of the the viewing devices. It's
that kind of like stylistic disruption. It reminds me of I've got this uncle, and every time we go out to dinner, he complains about modern American cinema, the naturalistic sound. He's like, "You fucking mumbling, I can't understand a fucking word you're saying. Like, just tell me what the fucking story's about." Like, and he just drinks wine and he gets more and more agitated about not being able to understand every line of dialogue in a film because it's less ADR. Before they would do ADR, right? So afterwards they record their voices and it would all be clear as a bell.
Yep.
And then basically New Hollywood comes along in the 70s. It is like Scorsese, it's Mean Streets and all that, and it comes along and it's naturalistic sound, and the sound's got depth. There's space and depth to the sound, but that means you can't hear it all. There's an attack on fidelity, which was driving my uncle nuts, absolutely nuts. And I reckon like that screen, like if people are going to make content in that like portrait screen, like people are going to reject it. Like some people who can't be interested in it, they're not going to be able to cope with the trade-off. Like, it was just so funny to listen to his mind in complete rebellion about sound.
Yeah. Well, it's actually interesting because you get used to the mediums that you're immersed in, of course, and I remember when I was a kid and Popeye was on TV, like Robin Williams film, and that's got, old school ADR, and it just sounded so weird, it's like, why, what's wrong with the voices, like it was hyper. But I'm writing this book chapter at the moment, and it talks about like when I was making diary comics to deal with this, like I was like being evicted from our house during COVID and stuff. Made these comics, and I noticed
breakout for you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like a lot of people could just say, I've been stiffed by like real estate and
Can people still
landlords
find
as
that?
well.
Was it on the Drum Online? Where people go and find
it's
that?
on the ABC,
ABC?
News Radio National. Yeah, I could put a link
Oh,
in
you go.
the
Yeah,
show
yeah.
notes, but
So do
kicked
ABC
out-
Radio National Darren Fisher.
kicked out during coronavirus is the name
Kicked
of the
out
comic.
during Corona. Yo.
But so halfway through that, I noticed that like the story like that I was making, which was just like, this is what happened like a couple of days ago and I'm catching up, whatever. It was mimicking this sort of like traditional restorative 3-act structure, you know? I'm like, holy shit, right now I'm at the hero's lowest point, you know? And we've just had, you know, like all of these points, I could map it towards to like this sort of like, you know, these key beats and like I write about this like, is it serendipity or is it just me going like I've just ingested these stories my whole life and I'm looking for these, you know, like these patterns and just like this is what I'm focusing on.
Yeah,
you know?
fascinating.
Or is it also
But that's when you
because-
knew you had a story. You're like,
Yeah.
now I know I've got a story because this is changing on me.
Yeah, totally. And I was
Like
like,
this beat.
at
This is
some
a beat.
point, I'm like, I'm about to face the, you know, the monster kind of thing. This is my third act. This is wrapping up now kind of thing. So
Was your friendly, helpful wizard who gave you the tools you need, were they a real estate agent by chance?
that was actually, it was a, like a
Was
parliamentarian
it family?
guy. No,
Yeah.
it was like a minister dude we called up and he then
that's right.
said,
That's right.
just what you should do is see a doctor and then get because like for the listeners,
Right.
my wife's sort of like immunocompromised and we didn't want, like it was the start of COVID. We didn't want people just walking through the house and like breathing on us.
Yep.
We didn't know. So he's like, just get a letter from the doctor to say like people can't come in. And then that worked. And because we had so many struggles with the real estate agent, like sort of arguments and like, oh, you know, we have a right to come in. We're like, we've got a right to, you know, be sort of in peace and stuff. But yeah, our wizard was
That's your wizard. That's incredible.
Lovely gentleman, like no doubt a busy man, but he took his time out for us. One of his
Now,
constituents.
if you're listening out there, tell me when you didn't hear that beat in the story and you were like, wait, who was the wizard? I know about the wizard character. They come along and help and offer advice and maybe some tool or magic item. And I'm proposing it's a real estate agent because it's about finding housing. But then you're like, no, it's a parliamentarian.
Yeah.
Like it's, that tell me that you didn't. You're listening to that story for the first time. Tell me you didn't get a little thrill, like a little pattern recognition thrill of like, oh my God, like that's a defamiliarization. Like we all know we can call our local member, but once we see it in a 3-act story, it's like the joy of like, oh my God, the fucking sitting member was your wizard. That's
totally.
There's something cool about that.
Yeah, they're you know that. Like he couldn't really do anything because like the laws had not really changed in pace with, you know, the pandemic, which was quite new. But he I mean, that's what they're there for, you know. And we saw like the real estate agents were like the antagonists. They were like, you know, they were not on our side at all. But no, like that's what you do. Like you when you're in trouble, you look for these helpers and, you know, wizards and stuff. And
totally.
Yeah.
When you were talking about before that, about patterns, things that you like because they were established early on. I was going to say to that, like, that's why I love single hatching. Like, because I got given I found a Nausicaa volume that wasn't part of the movie. It was part of the story that wasn't in the movie. Mm-hmm. And I'd seen the movie. And once I saw that in the original art, like, I saw it as a teenager and it made me... And because I couldn't get it. I couldn't just go out and get it. So I just kept finding like Akira or Nausicaa in bits and pieces of the story and trying to piece it together. Mm-hmm. And the hatching style of the Nausicaa comic, it brings me simple joy, like because of what it was to me back then. It's now like intersected with, no pun intended, it's intersected with my kind of development and kind of my emotional safety as well. Like, why was I reading comics then, and what else was going on for me? It's just fascinating. I'll for my whole life, I will love single hatching. You know, not cross hatching. It's got to be single hatching. It's very precise. Okay. It's got to be a thick. It's got to be a thick mark as well. Like it can't be some light fucking mark. Yeah, right. It's just so weird how I've attached I've got these stylistic preferences that really just come from, like, they're autobiographical. You know, it's weird. Yeah. It's irrational.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's like interesting how all these sort of, I mean, for me, it's, like there's an album by Faith No More, like King for a Day, and when I was
Oh yeah, that's
reading,
great.
when I was like, I was reading this novel at the time that I was listening to this, and anytime I think of hear the music, I'm taken back to that story, and yeah, I wonder about, like, I often think like if I was a kid or like growing up now, I probably wouldn't draw because, like the lure of, YouTube and Instagram and stuff, you just spend your whole time consuming content. So I just wonder, like we had such a limited palette of influences when we were a kid, and what people coming through
But
now.
it's just changed as well. Like I remember like for my job, I was like working from home and I was making something on Canva, and like my kid's like, oh yeah, Canva, yeah, me and my friend, we've been using that for years. Like I'm like, really? Like what have you show me something you've made? And she just showed me all these things she and her buddy had made on Canva and just flipped back and forward to each other from like grade 3 on.
Yeah, right.
So whereas
Well, the
I'm an
kids are-
adult, like click, like trying to struggle through. And she's like, oh, here's some shit I did when I was 7. I don't even care about it. And I was like, wow, like that's that ease of technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's only possible. Like they're using Canva mobile in grade 3. That's mental.
Yeah, but also like I'm finding the kids in this Kinderdorf like really are not comfortable with paper,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and so like I always take with me like my iPad Pro and my iPad Mini, but I don't get to touch them because the kids are always like, oh, can I draw on this? And then they're like taking turns and just love. But I also notice like when they're drawing on these things, they're constantly erasing. They're drawing, they're erasing, they're drawing.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like there's something about drawing on paper and being stuck with it as well. And then they're like frustrated.
Yep.
That's like, okay, I don't know if it's good that, if you like have this Control Z, mentality. I don't know.
I sometimes so many conversations at parties. I've been like, you know what? Let's just Control Z that last 2 things that I did. At first, I didn't know I was going to go down this path. Now we would both agree that we wish the conversation hadn't gone down this path. Let's just take it back a step. But that's not really how life works.
No, it doesn't. And yeah, it's tempting, like, and if I'm working digitally a lot and then I switch to paper, I don't know if you've had this, but I'm like, I find this like part of my brain that I make a mistake and then like there's this like involuntary neural twitch to a Control Z. And it's like, I can't do it.
Oh, it's not there. Well, I don't recognize that from switching my drawing. I recognize it from social situations.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's everyone can relate to that.
It could be.
Yeah.
That's totally. Well, that's amazing, man. And we've got. So, tell me where you got up to with the monkey drawing. Like, how did you decide? Like, bam, that's it.
I mean, I guess at some point it just was like a combination of like, I'm done. I couldn't be bothered, and I can't think of anything else to do with it, and anything else that I'm doing is not making it any better, and so that'll do.
You've sort of simplified, haven't you? Like you've taken away. It's interesting. You've actually by developing the drawing, you've developed the drawing by taking away a lot of the detail and really just being selective about where that level of detail is.
Yeah,
and
then
I love the high contrast on the cliff and everything. That's great.
Yeah. Well, actually, stylistically, I didn't like create the same style to the cliff as to the monkey, so it's kind of like not doesn't sit together properly, but yeah, it becomes more in a finished drawing about like the composition and the shapes and how it sort of clicks together. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But
amazing, man.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's good fun. So, What
were we going to say just now?
Oh, just that like it's just like you gotta satisfy this part of the brain that just wants to do heaps of little details, and then the other part of the brain that's like, okay, it just has to read as like a finished picture. But like I love to I still like to draw Batman sometimes and do this fantasy stuff and mix it up.
I love your fantasy stuff.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I still enjoy to do it, but my wife doesn't take me seriously when I do that, so I have to make her happy as well.
As opposed to all those wives who do take their husbands seriously.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just a lesson in constant effacement from the other, isn't it? It's just that's what a marriage is.
Yeah, it's support and sense checking and stuff. So
you bet.
Yeah,
you bet. I'm being very facetious.
Yeah.
But I think, like I'm really trying to generate my sense of play. And like no person that I've been interested in or dated would be up for it, because it's actually my personal journey. Like some of the things I'm best at are things that my partners have hated about me. Like I've never had a partner who appreciated basketball and wanted to come watch a basketball game, or it's just like, oh my god, you're going to do basketball then, Jesus. But like it's one of the things I'm best at in the whole world. Like my engagement with pop culture, and like some of them have been with me on like movie history and stuff and media, but usually it's like, okay, dude, you go over there, like go find your like man cave or whatever, and just do what you got to do, and when you're ready to be a sensible human being, I guess maybe 70% chance I'll be here. So I don't want to be limited by things that only like my partner's gonna be simpatico with, because they got that dangerous lady brain anyway. Like, fuck, I got some man shit to explore.
Man shit. I don't know if like drawing comics about myself is man shit, but yeah, I don't know. This is getting a little bit deep, but I know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just reacting to what you said before. Like, that's an interesting. Like, I would draw more Batman, but like the missus gonna, mock me at dinner.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, I get it, because I don't know, like it's also one of those things that I quite enjoy drawing Batman and stuff sometimes, but it doesn't really feel like it's not like expressing what's inside of me the same, like, and you can certainly still work on like your visual skills and like composition and line work and and stuff, but it's not as interesting in a way as just making these like goofy diary comics or autobio stuff. Yeah. So it's different itches to scratch.
Totally. Well, like me and my kid, we're just we're like halfway through building a 8-bit Nintendo out of Lego, and it's an incredible experience. like also like finishing Dark Souls in 2007 or whenever, like the 2014. Like that was an incredible experience in my life. A couple of video game experiences have been like, wow, that was really amazing. And there's no way that I can really explain to someone who's not really in the can for those things how incredible that is to do. Like, building the Nintendo is really fun, and I just can't, if you have to explain it, there's no point. You can't explain it. You know what I mean? Like, people are just gonna be like, what? Like, why would you do that? You gotta
have a partner that's like doing the same things, I think, and into the same stuff. I think, like, when it's important to you, like, this is not related to drawing, but in a way, like if my partner was just saying, like the drawing's like a waste of time, I don't. Either it wouldn't work, or I wouldn't be drawing, and I would be, I don't know, I'd be like one of these sort of shame smokers. I'd be off like hiding, just, what are you doing? Oh, I'm not doodling. No. Yeah.
I'm just preparing for my next shift in the factory.
That's right. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Definitely don't want to see you with any paper.
Yo.
So yeah, it's, but I think that's important. Like, find that partner who wants to play Dark Souls with you.
Yeah, well, like we were saying before, the peer support.
Yeah.
Like having someone affirm what we're doing, like what we're on about, like what we have to say, what we're trying to do. That is important, whether it's your friends or your partner or whoever.
Nice.
But my, part of me is still just slamming my door, yelling at my parents that don't understand me.
No one's parents understand them. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
Oh, man, this has been amazing to go over this stuff. What's one thing that you want listeners to take away from this pod?
I mean, like for me, drawing has been such a key part of like who I am and how I understand the world and how I relax and my identity. So like, I mean, I would love more people to just have a go with drawing and like, just see what happens. And can you sort of like sit down for, some minutes and just like do some automatic drawing or, and whatever. It's not going to change the world, but it might just give you a little bit of more patience and more ability to sit with something that's like not comfortable or, like open yourself to going, okay, I didn't think I could draw, but maybe I can. So like, what else, do I think that I can't, that maybe I can? And yeah. Good fun. Yeah. Tell your story through images. There's a lot to get from that. Yeah.
It's a different part of the brain than what life demands from us day in, day out, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. Sing, dance, draw, make love, go into nature, be good to your mother, all that stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And it's been awesome. And I would really like to do this again. And whenever you've got more of your filmed drawings, those stop frame. Is a stop frame, right? It's not just going
it's
very
just
slowly.
Time lapse. Yeah, time lapse.
This is time lapse.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. Yeah, sure, man. Love to.
Good one. Thank you, man. That's so good.
Yeah, mate. Pleasure to chat.
Yo.
Thank you, dude.
I'm going to just do one little more shout out there and just say I would love to hear from anyone about like leave a comment or write in, email, links in the description. If you know what your like stylistic go-tos are, that it's got some autobiographical element, for some reason you love this kind of thing in this way, whether it's drawing or film or comics or other kind of art or music or anything, I would love to hear what is the thing that you are kind of irrationally attached to for some reason. Like, feel free to tell a bit of a story. I would love to hear, and maybe share them on a future episode. All right, take care, everyone. Subscribe, like it, share with your friends. Don't call the cops, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.